And lots of news to get into today, not the least of which one of my favorite subjects, talking about my friend and I think unfairly prosecuted person, Roger Stone. And leave it to Trump. If you're going to drop some big news, why not step on the message of the Democrats on the New Hampshire primary night? And as you know, Donald Trump came out yesterday pretty vociferously on Twitter. He was talking about how Roger Stone facing 7 to 9 years is crazy, which it is, because most people in that position, they investigated the whole Mueller probe. No one was found to do anything wrong, but Roger Stone is still facing up to 9 years in prison. It seems like at least the president's voice was heard, and the Department of Justice stepped in and said that they weren't given the proper information from the prosecutors in the recommendation to the judge. They intervened and gave the judge some different instructions. And Donald Trump himself had a lot to say on Twitter and on television. And let's take a look right now at what Donald Trump had to say on the Roger Stone sentence.
Yeah, I thought it was ridiculous that no, I didn't speak to the judge. I'd be able to do it if I wanted. I have the absolute right to do it. I stay out of things to a degree that people wouldn't believe, but I didn't speak to him. I thought the recommendation was ridiculous. I thought the whole prosecution was ridiculous. And I look at others that haven't been prosecuted, or I don't know where it is now. But when you see that, I thought it was an insult to our country, and it shouldn't happen. And we'll see what goes on there. But that was a horrible aberration.
Now, if you listen closely, he hit one of the points that I've been talking about right here on Liquid Lunch for a while now. He said, what about, it's a horrible recommendation. And in these cases, just for those of you following at home, the Justice Department, the U.S. Attorney makes a recommendation, a sentencing recommendation to the judge. The former Mueller folks wanted to exact some revenge on a Trump friend, and they were recommending 7 to 9 years for a process crime. The U.S. Attorney has now stepped in, the new U.S. Attorney, and under the Department of Justice guidance, and made, I think, a much lower recommendation. But let us not forget, folks, this judge, she has had it in for Roger Stone. He's done some things that may not have helped his case, but this judge is only getting a recommendation. So that doesn't mean she can do what the Justice Department asks or recommends. That means that that's their guidance, and she could very well, come back and say, I don't care what the Justice Department says, and we're going to throw Roger Stone in jail for 7 to 9 years. She may even not grant him his bail while he's on appeal. So we'll keep our eye close on this. But on the Andrew McCabe front, here's the acting director of the FBI. What he's done is this. He lied to his entire agency, which he was the leader of. He was the acting director of the FBI. And an article was leaked to the Wall Street Journal. He said it wasn't him. Many of his agents sources taxpayer money to go out and track down the actual leaker, when the whole time this narcissist knew it was him. And he's yet to be charged for lying to the FBI. So I find it quite the same the president does. And now here's Andrew McCabe himself scoffing at the idea of Donald Trump's tweets affecting the actions of the Department of Justice. I think Andrew McCabe should lay low, if you ask me. But let's take a look what he had to say.
What would happen if he doesn't call and apply pressure?
Well, it's preposterous to think that the president's own public statements had no impact on the department's reversal of their position on the recommendation. Look, this is something we've seen before. I've seen it myself very personally in my own situation. The president indicates on Twitter for the world to see exactly what he wants done, and the department lines up behind that and executes his vision.
Here's a guy, the entire agency of the FBI, to go out and search for some leaker when all the while it was him. And this is why we gotta love Donald Trump, folks. You gotta love him, because everybody's out there saying, oh, wow, he tweeted and then the Justice Department intervened. This is terrible. Never one to back down or take the lower road. But the man who doubles down, he's under fire now for tweeting and influencing the Department of Justice. And what does he do? What any great president who knows he's in the right does. He tweets this: congratulations to Attorney General Bill Barr for taking charge of a case that was out of control and perhaps should not have even been brought. Evidence now clearly shows the Mueller scam was improperly brought and tainted. Even Bob Mueller lied to Congress. So the president doubles down on their double down, and I think he's right on the money. And we'll be waiting here on Liquid Lunch. We'll be talking about it all the time, about this travesty and injustice against Roger Stone. Hopefully the judge understands that this is a man who's never been convicted of a crime. He's never been arrested. He's 67 years old, and he's been through enough. His public dignity, his life savings, his time has been taken away from him. And maybe we should close this whole chapter without a vindictive sentencing memorandum. So we'll keep our eye on that very closely. A whopper of a woman Wednesday. As you know, on Wednesday, we got the A-team on the man's side. Here to mix it up right after this is David Eisenbach and John Burnett. A little later on, we're going to have Tisha Powell. And just a few days ago, there was a reported incident of a man who was celebrating his 50th birthday down in Tennessee with his wife, having a good old time at a saloon, having a cocktail, much like the Liquid Lunch saloon right here. And he had on a red hat. And we talked about how red hats now trigger the woke folk. But the hat said, "Make 50 great again," in the same font as a "Make America Great Again" hat. And we talked about people getting thrown out of bars and restaurants and stuff because it's not a safe space for the snowflakes. His hat said, "Make 50 great again." And some wacko lefty who couldn't handle it was triggered by a red hat and basically came up to the guy, a decorated, retired New York City police officer celebrating his 50th birthday in Tennessee, and slugged him right in the face, potentially with a key. He's got a hole in his face, potentially with a ring or something. But Danny Sprague is going to be here. He's going to join us, and we're going to talk about why it's okay to physically attack Trump supporters, even when they're not necessarily Trump supporters. It was just a red hat. Where is the outrage for the hate of attacking someone physically because they have on a red hat? A little later on in the show, we'll have Zen Sams here. She's here every Wednesday for Woman Wednesday. She's going to be talking about some of the things that happened during the Oscars this week. Consuelo Vanderbilt Costin is going to join us from Los Angeles via Skype. And for those of you wondering what you should do for Valentine's Day, we're going to get into that with Eileen Fisher a little later on. She is one of the finest dating experts in the world. And finally, a little later on, we'll get to the Metropolitan Magazine Minute when our man about town, Chase Backer, checks in with Julie Mintz on what's happening for Fashion Week and all the great things to do right here in New York. For those of you here for Fashion Week, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with more Liquid Lunch right after this.